So, we have a new simic commander. Zimone Mystery Unraveler. So for 1 blue, 1 green and 2 generic, you get a free human wizard legendary creature. And then she comes with a landfall ability. Whenever a land you control enters, manifest dread. When you manifest dread, you look at the top 2 cards of your library, put one of them onto the battlefield face down as a creature, as a colorless creature, and the other into your graveyard. Turn it face up anytime for its mana cost if it is a creature card. So Manifest Dread is kind of both fueling your graveyard similar to Surveil and giving you creatures, basically. Not tokens, but you're building a board state. So far she looks kinda cute, but there's more to it. Manifest Dread. Now, if this is the first time this ability has resolved, you Manifest Dread. Otherwise, if it's the second, third, fourth and so on, you may turn a permanent you control faced up. This suddenly means that with only one fetch land, you can play the fetch land, generate a Manifest Dread trigger, find a cool, really expensive creature, then manifest that, crack the fetch land, and boom! You get to flip whatever you just found. So her ability is both card draw, as you're taking cards from your deck and putting them into play, and also tricking creatures directly into play by skipping the entire mana cost part. Thank God this doesn't have more color identities to it, because this is really good. Let's begin with the cEDH aspects of this format, the most powerful thing you can do. How good is it in cEDH? Well, STAX is currently struggling quite a lot. STAX is more or less dead. That's my opinion at the very least, and I have some data on various videos that I've showcased to prove that STAX is kinda struggling in the current format. But the second part is that building a deck with a lot of stompy creatures where your game plan is to swing for the win is too slow as well. And if you're putting this kind of deck together, you might be lacking proper interactions like counterspells and such, because you need to fill your deck with a lot of really big stompy creatures. Remember, when you're putting her into play, you're playing your fetch land, you get to look at the top 2 cards of your library, Kinnan gets to look at top 5, and even Kinnan misses. So Kinnan also plays a lot of counterspells to make sure that he's able to compete in the cEDH environment, and if you're going to put this together, then you're going to have even more counterspells, no, even more stompy creatures than Kinnan to make this ability into a bonkers ability. And if you're filling your entire decklist with a lot of stompy creatures, you are just not going to be able to interact with your opponents, and you aren't going to be able to kill them fast enough, even though it looks pretty amazing, like you're going to build an enormous big stompy army, but still that turbo combo deck is going to beat you to it quite fast and efficiently. It is just the wrong kind of format for her. I actually even have a good example of evaluating her power level with the Kinnan Bounder Prodigy. So there are 2 ways you can basically play Kinnan. One is the flip Kinnan, where you're trying to activate Kinnan as fast as possible and as much as possible to basically overflow your opponent with the big stompy stacked creatures and then swing for the win and gain lots of value doing it as well. The second approach is to turbo out Basalt Monolith with Kinnan and win. And the approach that is trying to turbo out Basalt Monolith is the one that is winning more compared to trying to like casually hope and flip things with Kinnan. And that is why I'm evaluating that this commander is going to have a similar experience. Just using Kinnan as an experience reference. But what about having her in lower power levels? Well, this is definitely where she's going to be busted. So the biggest, meanest, stompiest thing you can do inside this format is Eldrazi's, which is kinda perfect on the horror theme that this commander is supposed to be in. In casual, you don't have to play the same amount, or you don't actually have to play any counterspells whatsoever. You only need to have ramp, card draw, and big stompy things that will swing for the win. You should play every single fetch land you can get your hands on simic color identities. Even Terramorphic Expanse and Wandering Wild seems really correct here. But definitely also auto-including Fabled Passage and Prismatic Vista. You should also play green ramp spells that are directly putting lands into play. Like, there are lots of different green sorceries that will put 2 lands into play directly. However, you actually only need 1, because you will also have a land drop. On the other hand, it could be good to have these green sorcery spells that put 2 lands into play directly, because sometimes you don't have lands in your hand, and the more lands you're removing out of your deck, the less likely you are to draw into a land. And then the second part is to put a lot of Eldrazi's into this decklist. I recommend Lightning Greaves, because Eldrazi's have Annihilator, and that's how I lost all my casual friends. But the deck will naturally come together in a really good way. With green you can ramp your commander into play fast and efficiently, and then you continue to ramp more and more and more, because the more lands you find, the more you will manifest, and the more you will flip and turn your Eldrazi's face up, and also the more lands that you have, the more you can cast your really expensive Eldrazi's that you draw into. But there's another entirely different part we also need to talk about, and that's the graveyard part. Filling your graveyard is actually naturally good, because it can become a secondary hand in some cases. Here it is possible to include blue flashback spells of various kinds. But if you're playing casual, I would highly recommend Genesis. And the blue creature that enjoys being in the graveyard, Wonder. So as a finalized review, in the current meta, she's just too slow for cEDH. She could work out and she could win a game here and there, but I don't see a world where she's going to work out truly or become a menace. We have a lot of experience of this kind of gameplay style not really working out inside this format. But in casual, she's going to be an enormous powerhouse, and if you actually build her filled with Eldrazi's, people might tell you not to play this anymore. So maybe it's better to not play Eldrazi's actually when I think about it. Well, it's really up to what your friends are okay with, I guess. Regardless, thank you so much for watching, and I hope you enjoyed the video and got something out of it, inspired in any form of way. Take care guys, and I'll see you in the next one.